In this video, we're going to look at absolute value equations, and while they are slightly harder than what we worked on in the last video, you'll find that all we're really doing is one small tweak. So this should be pretty simple for you. But before we dive into these equations, let's first understand what absolute value is. We know if I have the equation absolute value of x is equal to a, what does that mean? Well, we know absolute value takes any number, positive or negative, and it makes it positive. So with absolute value, your range, your output is always a positive number, but your input, your domain, the domain of the absolute value function, you can plug in a positive or a negative number. So what this is really saying, the absolute value of x is equal to a, this means x can equal plus or minus a. And you'll see this when we do this first example. Absolute value of x is equal to 19. This is positive 19 and negative 19. Because can't we take the absolute value of 19 and get back 19? Yes. And we can also take the absolute value of negative 19 and get a positive number. Absolute value turns positive numbers negative. So what we see here is that our absolute value equation essentially created two more equations. So we can say that x is equal to, if we have the absolute value of x is equal to a, where a can be any number, really. That's the same thing as saying x is equal to plus or minus a, and then we split our equations up. X is equal to a or x is equal to negative a. Let's keep going with this same idea. We have the absolute value of x plus 8 is equal to 11. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set up two equations. Let me write that bigger. So I'm going to set up two equations, one positive equation and one negative. So, and notice, on the left side, I didn't do anything to the left side. X plus 8 stayed the same. The only thing you're changing is the number. You're having one positive version of it, and you're having one negative version, and you're solving both equations for x. So for the first one, x plus 8 is equal to 11. We can subtract 8 from both sides to get 3. And in the next equation, we can subtract 8 from both sides again. This time we'll have negative 11 minus 8, which is negative 19. And what we can do is plug these values into our equation to verify this works. If we plug in the 3, we will get the absolute value of 3 plus 8, which is the absolute value of 11. That is indeed 11. And we have the absolute value of, we have negative 19. We can plug that in to get the absolute value of negative 19 plus 8. It's the same as the absolute value of negative 11, which returns positive 11. All right, so let's look at our next equation here. Now, I know we're obviously dealing with some bigger numbers here. Don't get intimidated. We're doing the exact same process every single time. So we have the absolute value of 5x minus 37 is equal to 125. So I'm going to write my first half of my equation without the absolute value, 5x minus 37. And we're going to have one positive equation. Well, I'm going to erase that. We're going to have one positive equation, and we're going to have one negative equation. So for the first one, 5x minus 37 is equal to 125. We can add 37 to both sides to get 162. And then if we divide both sides by 5, we would get 162 divided by 5. Now, what is this as a decimal? So as a fraction, this is the same as 324 over 10. And from that, it's clear that x is equal to 32 divided by 4. And then if we deal with our second equation here, 5x minus 37 is equal to negative 125. We can add 37 to both sides, and we will get 5x is equal to negative 88. If we divide both sides by 5, we get x is equal to negative 88 over 5, and I can see, I want the denominator to be 10 so I can easily change this to a decimal. So let's see, if I multiply the 5 by 2, that's 10. 88 times 2 is 176. Still have that negative sign. But when I write it like this, negative 176 over 10, it makes it painstakingly obvious that x is equal to negative 17.6. So notice, with your absolute value equations, you get two answers. Because you have a positive version of the equation and you have a negative version of the equation. Every time you have absolute value equations, set it equal to the positive version of the answer and the negative version of the answer, because absolute value can take in positive and negative numbers, but it always returns a positive number. So I hope this helps.